So hi everyone. My name is Merihan and I'm a PhD student at the University of Bristol. And my PhD is concerned with swarm robotics. And swarm robotics means using many robots in order to achieve a task instead of just one. And I look into how we can build expressive robots that express themselves to us so we understand the state of the robots and also we can express ourselves to them. And if we actually look into nature, that's what inspired swarm robotics. So flocks of birds, swarms of bees and ants, and schools of fish, the way that they interact with each other and the way that they accomplish tasks is actually what inspired swarm algorithms. Okay. And swarm research has been studied to do many applications. So for example, build structures, manage warehouses, explore other planets, or sending a swarm of drones to fight forest fires, or even to clean up the ocean. And that's because you can have much better coverage with a swarm of robots instead of just one, and you can add or remove as many agents, which are robots, as you want. And that's basically why it's sometimes better than just a single robot system. But of course, there remains the challenge of how can we interact with these robots. So you have a couple of agents doing their thing, but also how can we as humans interact with them? For example, if they're not behaving the way we want them to behave, or if there's a change of mission, how can we interact with them in order to tell them that? And this is what I do in my research, human-swarm interaction. And during my master's dissertation here in the university, I built a system that is called Robotic Canvas. And through a fun and engaging application, which is art, I explored the underlying mechanisms of human-swarm interaction. So I used a swarm of 220 robots called kilobots that were built in Harvard in order for a human and the swarm to collaborate together to create art. I'll give you a quick performance so you can just get the gist of the system. So here, sun sets on an ocean. Night arrives, stars begin to show in the night sky, more stars begin to show, clouds have formed as well, and then finally the sun rises again. So we created 6 different interaction modes in order for humans to create this, and we really understood how we can read out the swarm and how we can transfer messages to the swarm. And if you're interested more, this work has been published. We also were able to create an algorithm that uses a fewer number of robots in the canvas itself, so you can, the robots autonomously detect edges and aggregate around them, and that way you can still create shapes, but using a fewer number of robots. And we also did that in simulation with large numbers, so this animation is done with 1,000 robots in simulation, so you can also create animations that you can interact with. So this has been great in understanding how we can interact with robots in general, but we wanted to take the robots out of the lab and have a more intuitive method by which we can interact with them. And so we got a fund from Nesta to build a new swarm of robots that we can first use as a platform for studying human-swarm interaction, but also use outside the lab with people in order to help them in social tasks. And social applications have not been researched before in swarm robotics, and so it's a novel application also by which robots could be applied. And the whole system is called MOSAIX, and it's made of individual robots called tiles. And we built 100 of these. And we also thought that, we want an intuitive design, something that everybody knows how to use. And that's why we did literally a swarm of touch screen on wheels, because touch screens could be very expressive and everyone knows how to use them through their phones and tablets, etc. So what kind of applications did we use them for? So first we took a swarm of 30 robots to Cabot Circus Shopping Center, and we asked people to enter their opinion on the robot. So we told them, what is the most important thing to do in order to battle climate change on a personal level? And then we gave them the choices on the robot. And once they press an option, their option shows on the screen and mixes within a sea of opinions. So the robot arena here has so many different opinions of different people. And we saw that this behavior actually encouraged people to tell us their opinion because they can see other people's opinions, and it actually empowered them to think and also have food for thought in order to formulate their own opinion. We also use the robots as a collaborative art tool. So during the pandemic, we gave access to people to move the robots around this arena and also change the color of the screen. So they enter on a website and do that. And so this is strangers on the internet literally moving the robots in order to work together and create art. So here they're forming a palm tree. Other shapes that emerged are actually, this is a footballer, a palm tree, horse-ish, and the smiley face. And actually, people didn't only do that, they also chased each other around the arena and tried to knock each other over, which was a great durability test for the robots. But it was a really nice way to bring people together during the pandemic when we couldn't really see each other. We also took a swarm of 9 robots out to school children, and we asked the children to stop the robots. The robots were moving in this arena randomly, so they click on the screen, stop the robots, and assemble them to show this Mars Perseverance rover on the right. And the idea was that through this interesting application, we can tell the kids about STEM careers, swarm robots, and space robotics as well. Finally, we use the robots as a brainstorming tool. So imagine when you are in a brainstorming session, you write ideas on Post-it notes. In a team, you might end up with 50 or 60 Post-it notes. Some ideas might go unnoticed because there's just so many Post-it notes. So the idea is that you enter your idea on the robots, and the robots would autonomously aggregate to form different teams that show different themes. So for example, here we took the robots out and asked people, what can the city of Bristol do to provide a healthier lifestyle for us? Some people had ideas that had to do with transportation. So for example, build more cycle lanes or use less cars in the city center. Others had ideas about water facilities, building more water facilities and water dispensers in the city. And others had more ideas on food outlets, so having like less junk food outlets and more healthy or healthier restaurants. So this really just allows you to organize your ideas and maybe focus on the ideas that are more important to you. So in conclusion, during my PhD, I researched how we can make the robots work for us and make them expressive so that you can read out the swarm and they can express themselves to you. And we built a new swarm of robots called MOSAIX, made of 100 robot tiles in order to use in a new application, just social applications. Of course, there are many more questions, such as who is accountable for the interaction, or how do people perceive these interactions? And my colleague Effie here will answer some of these questions. So Effie, the stage is yours.